It's early May, and before we dig deep into the science around COVID-19, I thought it might make sense for us to pause and just ground ourselves in where we are at this moment in time related to the virus. So, let's head to the whiteboards behind me and let's explore where we stand. Welcome to Shareable Science. Science you can share. So many of us around the country are now beginning to emerge from stay-at-home orders and beginning to take steps back towards an increased amount of interaction. So it makes sense at this point in time to talk about what do we know about COVID-19, where do we stand, and what do we not know. So let's first start with some pretty big numbers. The actual known cases of COVID-19 infections around the world, 3.5 million, and in the United States, 1.1 million. These are most certainly underestimates because we have a number of individuals that either didn't have access to testing in the early stages or are asymptomatic and have no reason to go in and request testing. Around the world, 250,000 individuals have died from COVID-19, 70,000 of those in the United States. This tragic number is also likely an underestimate. How much of an underestimate is an open question. You've seen and heard me talk a lot about the curve and the need to flatten the curve. Here's what the curve looks like for the United States. The number of new cases per day across a window of time. Now I'm showing you the average, rolling average across a 7-day window. And we do that because it helps smooth out differences from day to day, especially on weekends when there might be less reporting. But you can see we rapidly rocketed up to 30,000 new cases on average every single day. We've dropped slightly, but we've plateaued, and that's incredibly frustrating. We haven't seen that drop that we would have been looking for. Other countries have seen drops, but some of the countries have seen the same plateau we are. That's a frustrating piece for us as we try to figure out how do we reduce that number of new cases each day. With this in place, let's talk about some of the science. Let's start with this number, which is also a big number. This is the estimated number of scientific papers, or in some cases, preprints that haven't yet been accepted into science journals that deal with COVID-19. This is an unbelievably high number. This is global science in action, trying to get as much information out as quickly as possible. The challenge is it's unbelievably impossible. Anyway, it's really difficult to try to get all of this information and figure out what to do with it. So some key caveats. What you see in these videos is based on only a small number of these overall cases. We try to dig into as many of them as we can, but I just want you to be aware of our limitations and what we can bring you. And even with all this information, scientists around the globe are left with a frustrating set of questions that we don't yet have answers to. Things like, how many people will ultimately be infected? Which models should we follow? Are some overly optimistic? Are some pessimistic? Why do some individuals get sicker than others? This is the $64,000 question that we don't yet have answers for. And then you fill in the blank with your favorite question. When will we have enough? Is that enough tests? Is that enough toilet paper? And one more really important question. How long until we have a treatment, until we have a vaccine, until we don't have to continue practicing appropriate social distancing? All right, let's now come to why I have this very unusual drawing, which is an elephant on the wall. And that comes to, even with this and what we don't know here, there's an old parable about 5 individuals who are blind who encounter an elephant. And each of them comes up to a different part of the elephant. The trunk, the ear, the tail, the leg, and they think that it is something different because they're only feeling one thing. The individual feeling the ear thinks it's a fan. The individual feeling the trunk thinks that it is a snake. The individual feeling the leg thinks it's a tree. On their own, they only have a little bit of the overall story. It's only if they put it all together that they have a better sense of what's happening with the elephant. Right now, Information is coming at us so quickly, and we want to grab on to something that we can understand, something that is simple, that makes sense. This virus is not simple. It is nuanced, and there are so many things that we don't yet understand. So my plea to you is don't get focused on the latest piece of news. Don't focus on one particular perspective on what the virus is or isn't, or how it did or didn't start, or how it will or won't end. Be open to multiple different perspectives and recognize that as we science our way through this, we ultimately will arrive at a better understanding of the overall shape. All right, that was a lot of content, and that's a longer video than many of the other ones. But I thought it was useful to pause before we jump back in to say, what do we know? And more importantly, what do we not know? And how do we use that to guide us in these weeks ahead? Thank you for watching. Please feel free to share these with people you think might find this useful. Take care, and I'll see you again soon.